Hello, hi, and welcome to Empathic Fire. I am your reader, Jay. These are going to be general messages for the sign of Capricorn in November 2020. What is going on? I almost called you November. What is going on, Capricorn? How are you guys doing? I hope that you're doing well. Wherever you are in the world right now, Capricorn, I hope you are safe, happy, healthy, and secure. Please continue to take very good care of yourselves and those that you know and love. As the year is wrapping up, 2020 is almost in the record books, but 2020 is still out there doing its thing. So please take all precautions if you are out and about and socializing with people and spending time with people. If you happen to be celebrating the Thanksgiving holiday at the end of the month, I wish you a happy Thanksgiving, no matter if you're here in the States or elsewhere in the world. And again, if you are getting together with friends, family, and all of that, please again take precautions because it's still a pandemic, friends, whether we want to admit that or not. But anyway, I don't think there are any other announcements. Nope. So let's go ahead and get into it. Capricorn, anything you want from me, it is in the description box already. If you're looking for the timestamp, it is down there. If you want to see information on how to get a personal reading with me, you can find that information down there as well. Any questions before you place an order for a personal, email me at the same address that you see there, and I'll answer you as soon as I can. If you're interested in doing a donation towards the channel, feel free to use the Cash App link below or the PayPal link below. It's never asked for, it's never expected, but it is always appreciated. Few people have reached out over the time that I've been doing this, and they're like, hey, can I just do you a donation? I'm like, okay, sure. Here are the ways you can do that. So that's why I tell you. But again, it's never expected, but it is always appreciated. And if you're interested in following me on Instagram, the name is EmpathicFire Tarot over there, and you can find the link for that down below in the description box as well. Okay. Capricorn, let's go ahead and get into it. I want to see the outcome for Capricorn in November 2020. Capricorn's outcome for November 2020, please show me. I have to say, Capricorn, getting your spread today was super hard. It took a long time. The energy I was encountering, and I'm still encountering, as you can see, is giving me like this feeling of not wanting to be found. And I might talk about this a little bit before we actually start the reading. But let's see. There it is. Okay, thank you. Bottom of the deck will be the overall energy. Okay, maybe that's why, as I see what the overall is. But we'll get into it a little bit, possibly, before the start of the reading. Flip everything that came face down first. Okay. That is interesting. Oh, Jesus. Don't be a perfectionist, Jay. Just go with it. All right, guys. So let's get into it. Please show me where Capricorn is in November 2020. Capricorn in November, please show me. Okay, got it. All right. That makes sense. Because I'm going to talk about this a little bit. So, Capricorn, to start your reading, we start with the Ace of Pentacles. But before we get into it, I was mentioning in the pre-shuffle, in case you jumped here from the timestamp, when I was shuffling your energy, when I was shuffling your cards, and when I was meditating, I found your energy hard to tap into, Capricorn, and it really felt like you don't want to be found. Is kind of the sensation it felt like. It's like you don't want anyone to know where you are, what you're doing, things like that. And it's not secrecy, it's like protection. When I was before I was shuffling, there was a meditation, and what I saw was like a house, like a secluded house, like away from a road, like there's a drive and there's like a lot of greenery there, and it's a white house, or at least like the framing around the front door is white with like strips of glass on either side. And inside, the house is beautiful. It's like a lot of wood finishings and crown molding and all that good stuff. But it was like empty, like it had just been either renovated or moved out of. And I feel like I was going there expecting to find something, and there was nothing to be found. Okay. So your energy at least feels like it doesn't want to be found. It doesn't want to be located. But we'll see if that plays in the story today with your reading. But going back to what I was saying, you start with the Ace of Pentacles. Now, that could play again with the idea of moving, or this idea of newness and renovation or something like that, because aces, when we talk about them in tarot, indicate fresh starts, new beginnings, new opportunities. In some of your cases, this is about your physical location, or just the physical standing. Interesting, physical standing you have in life. So maybe a new job, new opportunities with your money, or new opportunities to make money. Maybe, hopefully not a get rich quick scheme, but something like that where, like, it feels like some of you are really, perhaps reading over contracts or reading over certain clauses, like very specific detail on what you're about to sign on to. Again, that could be related to, new homes or relocation, new jobs, new opportunities within your current job, something like that. Maybe some of you are getting promotions, or you're taking on new responsibilities, and that requires you to be, in some cases, maybe like an NDA. Because again, I'm getting like this, like, you can't let people find out what you're doing, or you can't let people know the details of what you're doing. They can know a little bit, but they can't know everything. And so maybe some of you are taking on a new job where there's security clearances, and that means you have to be, under contract or under an NDA or something like that, or, all these other kinds of things. But as a starting point, I like this because I think you're very you're very dialed in or keyed in to exactly what you want out of this situation, out of this opportunity. You're not, whatever this is, a chance, an opportunity, an offer, a new home, a new location where you live or where you're moving to, whatever. I think you purposely have a goal in mind. It's not like I'm just taking this on a whim. It's not like I'm just going to try this and see what happens. It's like, no, I'm going to do this, and this is exactly what I expect to get out of it. So I think you're being very, I don't want to say strategic. I don't know that it's about strategy, but I think you're being very mindful. It feels very mindful. It feels like very aware of your goals, your aspirations, the things that you need to create or cultivate in your life, in your job, in your profession, whatever it is, for several things that are come down the line. Like, the longevity of it is very, it's very much a part of why you even got on this path in the first place, is that you're not making short-term goals, or you're not seeking to achieve short-term goals. You're in this for like long haul, long-term goals. Does that make sense? Okay. So what else happens with you? Please show me where else, or what else happens next with Capricorn. I keep wanting to call you Aquarius a little bit. Like, a couple times, like, Aquarius almost came out of my mouth. Or like, I don't know, maybe some of you are connecting with an Aquarius. But anyway, if not, don't worry about it. So what else happens? Okay, yes. Yeah. So this is not necessarily, quote unquote, a long time coming, but I feel you are taking it very seriously, as if you have been plotting for a long time. Maybe some of you have. To be fair, maybe some of you have. Two of Pentacles. So I think for a while, maybe you were in a spot of uncertainty. Some of you might still be in this spot. You're all on different timelines. So some of you, this all has happened already. I'm just telling you in retrospect what happened recently regarding a particular situation. Others of you, this is upcoming, and others of you, this is current. But at some point there was some, I'm not quite sure, or, oh, this is interesting. Now this deck, this is the Happy Tarot deck. It does I can't even say it. Portray. Thank you. I don't know why I couldn't get that word out. It does often portray. Thank you. Some of the characters in here do look like, quote unquote, children. However, they really like smacked me in the face with this idea of like being abandoned, as if you were a child, as if you were possibly an orphan. So maybe some of you are orphans or you were adopted. Not to say like that has a, I mean, maybe it does. Maybe it does have a very poignant significance in your life, or significance in the current events of your life, or the things that you're focused on at this time. But I'm really looking at this Two of Pentacles character as if like it was a child like playing in a playpen or something by themselves with like these two pentacles in this contraption in their hands. Even though in other decks this is like a young person or an adult, it's not a child. But I'm getting this vibe of like, left up to your own devices and just like sort of playing with this toy and not really knowing that you were alone, or that you were in danger, or that you were abandoned or something like that. So, and that might be, I don't want to call anybody out, and I'm not trying to highlight any painful memories for some people, but maybe that was literally it. Like maybe, if one of you, or however many, when you were younger, maybe you lost your parents tragically and, you were spared or something like that. That's very dramatic, and I don't know why it's significant, but there's some reason for me to be compelled to mention it because of this imagery. But more to the point, I think you have been in a spot of uncertainty or confusion for a while. Sometimes it is, I don't want to say agonizing, but certainly being caught between making decisions. When we see the Two of Pentacles, you could have felt that way for a while. But I think it's like, again, like this innocence, like a child, because okay, maybe that's it. Maybe your reason of or maybe the reason behind your uncertainty was because you were quote unquote innocent, or you were unaware. Let's say it that way, unaware. And when we're unaware, we can't really make decisions, or I mean, we can, but they might be the wrong decisions, or we might make them prematurely or whatever. And so at some point, I think you found yourself out of your depth. It feels like this happens. Even though we talked about the ace first, I feel this happened before the ace. Does that make sense? Like this is the background of the Ace of Pentacles. Like I feel this is your now moment, and at some point this was your past moment. This led up to that Ace of Pentacles, right? So in some of your cases, again, I'm getting this sensation of innocence or abandonment or being orphaned, something like that. Maybe someone, it doesn't have to be when you were a kid. For others of you, it's like it has happened in your adult life, and maybe someone abandoned you in your adult life. And it doesn't have to be family. It can be friends. It could be lovers or other loved ones, or it could be, since this is Pentacles, in your work life. So maybe some of you were like sort of holding the bag in a business relationship. Maybe some of you had to make crucial decisions in your line of work, but maybe you were new to the job, and maybe, like I said, out of your depth. So maybe some of you were working in high stakes jobs or careers, and you had to make decisions and you didn't feel capable. Okay. Something I think many of us can relate to, not just Capricorns. Some of you might have had or still have imposter syndrome, where, we work a job or we have a career, we're on a certain path or we're in a certain position, and we feel like we shouldn't be there. Like we feel unworthy, or we feel that we're not qualified enough to do that work. So for some of you, that could have been what you were doing, or again, what informs your Ace of Pentacles, which is the reset, or the new path, the new opportunity. Yeah. So maybe you worked for a company. It doesn't even have to be that it was you. It could have just been the culture of the company, you and the culture of the company, the vibe of the people or the management that you worked for just wasn't there. And so maybe some of you have professional backgrounds in finance, and finance is very cutthroat in many respects. It's very competitive. And maybe that's just not your vibe. In other cases, maybe, it would be a sad thing to realize, but maybe you got into medicine or pharmaceuticals. But the reason I say that is because like maybe some of you like literally worked through college and med school and did all that stuff. And then you became a surgeon, and then you find out, I really don't want to like cut into human flesh. I kind of am uncomfortable with that. And so like, but for whatever reason, that was the path that you took. That was the decision that you made at some point. And now, again, I feel the Two of Pentacles is sort of like this weighing of options. What am I going to do here? Or what should I do? Or just idly kind of going about life, not knowing that you were, I don't want to say incapable, but maybe you just weren't ready or adapt. You were not, quote unquote, correct for that line of work or for that connection, relationship. You weren't correct in that social setting. This could be like, I don't want to say simple, but it could be something like where you were part of an organization, a volunteer organization or a community organization, an outreach group. And the ways in which they were doing the outreach program, you went along with it. Like I feel, again, like as if it was a baby, as if it was a child. You go along because you're trusting of others. Children, for the most part, go along with what adults tell them to do and lead them to do because that's the hierarchy. That's the way it is. I'm just a 5-year-old. I can't do this by myself. You know, I can't pay for my own food. I think you literally could. Our kids, I think kids are allowed to buy things, right? Because when I was a kid, I could like go to the store and buy things when I was little. And I'm speaking from, I don't hang around children. I don't know what you do with them these days. Anyway, but that's what this feels like. It feels like in the company of others, you were okay, but left to your own devices, you really were like, I don't really know what I'm doing here. And you weren't really aligned with what you were asked to do. Okay. All right. So what else happens for Capricorn? Absolutely. All right. So I think what has happened is this, yes, this has somewhere in your story, and it feels like some of you, it happens kind of quickly, which is kind of, I don't want to say ironic. It's not ironic. It's just unexpected with the card that we're going to jump to, because I think that's where we're going. Yes, yes. All right. So you get a wake-up call. Hangman energy, secondary major for Pisces. You could be dealing with a Pisces, but you don't have to be. So Capricorn, I feel at some point you kind of had an aha moment, or you will have an aha moment if this is upcoming, or you're living through it now. And it might have been a little, when I see the Hangman, sometimes it's really hard. I think a lot of you guys are rolling with the punches, because one of the things I say about this card is, oh man, doesn't that look uncomfortable to be strung up by your ankle and dangled upside down for an extended period of time? I assume most of us would not enjoy that experience, right? So the position that the Hangman asks us to be in, which is to have revelations or self-reflection, expand our current perspectives, or take on, or not even take on, but just consider new perspectives that we never considered before. I feel your energy really takes this in stride, Capricorn. It doesn't feel like you fight this for the most part. It might be like a, oh, duh kind of moment, like a, oh, duh. Like it's more like it might be like a, maybe it's because you were kind of always, or at least for a part of your time, a portion of time, you felt that uncertainty and you were juggling things and kind of going back and forth in your head about what to do next. And maybe this will be the good decision that I could make for myself. Oh, but maybe I should make that decision, and all of that. Because you were trying to work it out, that could have been why this is not so impactful. That could be why I feel like you were just kind of like, oh, okay, got it. Like a, like a, again, like a, oh, duh kind of moment. Oh, duh, this is what I should be doing. Or, oh, duh, this is what I should be thinking about or considering. Or these are the perspectives that I am now going to be not taking on, but at least open to, possibly more aligned with. Like, again, with the Hangman, increasing? No, thank you. Widening, expansion of your perspective. Not to say that you change it completely, whatever we're talking about. So going back to the not really being in the vibe of like finances, right? That job as a financer, or whatever role you have, let's say even medicine, right? So let's say you don't want to be a surgeon. Okay. What else can you do? The medical field is huge, right? So maybe you don't want to perform brain surgery on people, which again is is a sad thing to realize. Like once you get out there, like I would think somewhere along that trajectory, you would realize, I really don't want to operate on a living human. I really don't want to do that. That's not really like, I just don't feel comfortable with that. Whatever reason you would have. And so now it doesn't mean you have to leave the medical field completely. Maybe you'll become a different type of specialist. Maybe you'll, jump and become a social doctor. Maybe you want to jump into psychology or psychiatry or something like that. And you would still be able to utilize the knowledge that you have previously, because that's what the Hangman asks of us. It doesn't ask us to completely abandon what we've known. It asks us to expand upon what we've known and possibly change over, but never forget. Like, don't forget like all the things you learned when you were a neurosurgeon. Don't forget the things that you learned when you were a tax accountant or whatever it is. You know what I mean? Use those skills in a different way. Does that make sense? Also, it does speak to, the Hangman does speak to enlightenment. So for some of you, this is, I don't know. It's if it is a awakening, a spiritual awakening, philosophical awakening, whatever you want to call it. I don't know that it's like shaking your world that much. Like a lot of you feel like a lot of this energy that I'm in, I feel like you're comfortable with this. I think you're prepared for this. Oh, interesting. Interesting. They're reminding me. Okay. So this is November 2020. And they're reminding me Taurus had something about spiritual awakening, and Virgo had something. I don't know if it was spiritual awakening, but it felt like very, oh, okay, now I get it. Or like coming to some type of revelation. And that has been thematic for many signs, but because I'm pointing those two out to you because those are your sister signs, earth signs, right? So Taurus and Virgo had very similar situations. Taurus was just like not about it. They were very shocked. They were very like uncomfortable, or it just hit them like a ton of bricks is kind of what it felt like. Virgo was a little like, this is happening. I'm not really happy with it happening this way, but I know it has to happen this way. Okay, cool. I got it. Yours is like even more accepting than Virgo's was. This energy of, oh, I'm being enlightened. Oh, my crown chakra. Maybe some of you, chakra? Shaka Khan? No. Chakra, excuse me. Maybe some of you are having certain types of enlightenment along your chakras. So I don't know if that means anything to you. For several of you, it doesn't mean anything. And it's not to say that it has to be that. But maybe some of you are doing work with your chakras, or you're exploring that work, getting into meditation, getting into, what is it called? Like charging, okay? And it doesn't have to be anything holistic. It doesn't have to be anything in this spiritual woo-woo world. It could be totally just external from all of that, or removed from all of that. But I feel, and that's also kind of funny because, I mean, it is the happy deck. So most of the characters we see will be smiling. Not all of them, but this guy is actually smiling. And in other decks, the Hangman has either no expression, or it's a very like, like, get me down from here type of expression. It's very rare, I think, and don't quote me, but I don't feel I usually see the Hangman in a happy, like, I'm so happy to be in this position. This face on this character, I'll show you in the upright so you can just see it. It's like, I'm having such a good time. So it's like a quiet aha moment. And I think it comes because you, again, have considered, how can I go forward towards a newer opportunity? Newer opportunity is how I said that. Like, okay, thank you. Again, like with this changing of the jobs, like I feel like some of you, like you get a job, you have it for like a couple of months, and then you change jobs, possibly staying within the same company or organization, or you just completely go to a totally new job. And that's not what a Capricorn usually would do, but it is there. I see you guys, you wouldn't do that because Capricorn's kind of, you're meticulous, you can be methodical, pragmatic, like everything like makes sense. Even if you're like in the world of art and entertainment, which is like go, go, go. And it's all about creative energy and like, finding inspiration and utilizing your creativity and all that kind of stuff. Even in worlds or careers like that, Capricorns would still have some method or measure to what they do and why they do it. There is normally a high level of rhyme and reason when dealing with Capricorn energy. And I feel that is why you're able to get into this awakening or this aha moment, this change of perspective, because you've already considered the rhymes and the reasons. You've already gone through that, quote unquote agony, because I don't think many of you were agonizing about it. It was just more, I mean, some of you might have, but I feel like you're like stroking your chin. You're like, why do I not like this job? Why do I feel uncomfortable whenever this person walks into the room? Okay, that's a little bit of a change, but it makes sense. It still feels very job and career oriented for most of you. However, in some of your cases, this is about friends and family, interpersonal relationships, and it's like the vibe of the company or the vibe of a person within the company just offsets you in some type of way. Some of you were sitting there or are sitting there now. I can do this job. I'm successful at it. I'm fulfilled in these ways. It pays the bills, da 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 da. But there's something about that person or this team of people that I just can't get on board with. And so it kind of, in some ways, like I said, I don't think you were agonizing, but I think you were genuinely curious. How come? And then you realize maybe you're a more sensitive person than you thought you were, Capricorn. Maybe you didn't think, like again, with the neurosurgeon thing, like maybe you didn't know I don't know how you can get that far along to being like actually put onto the hospital floor and doing surgery. Like some of you didn't know you were that squeamish or something like that. Or going back to like the interpersonal relationships, either inside of a career or outside of it, you just didn't know that certain personality types in close quarters, having to work with them or live with them, whatever it is, it's not your vibe. And again, if you can afford a newer opportunity, a reset, you took it. And some people were like, hey, that's kind of weird. Because again, that frequency, like within a couple of weeks or a couple of months to go from one place, one position to another, that's usually not Capricorn's way. So the change up is the shocker for other people. Might shock you too. But again, I think you again, being curious the entire time, maybe that's kind of the resiliency or could relate back to that image of like a child. Children tend to be pretty resilient, right? Because they're learning, and they're developing. So they don't really, not to say like this is quote unquote good or bad, but they don't have a lot of hard no's because they don't know anything or they're just, again, they're learning. They're becoming accustomed to situations, people, emotions, their own psychology, their own, all the ways in which children develop over their time before they become adults, right? So I feel because you were a child, quote unquote, or someone who was new to it, or you're in a new situation, you're around new people, you were able to change it that much faster. Does that make sense? I hope that makes sense. Okay. So what else happens for Capricorn? All right. Yeah. So now interestingly, okay, this is interesting because I'm not really feeling this energy. I feel you're having like an in and out reading or I guess I could call it a circuit. It feels like you're having a circuit reading. So we're going this way. I can feel it. Yep. Okay. So this is interesting. I don't know where this is coming from. So let's find out. 9 of Wands. So you or someone here, there could have been some apprehension. Sure. There could have been some fear or some, something lost along the way is what this feels like. Ooh. I don't know about that. They're making me use this word brutal or brutalized. Ugh, what does that mean? I don't know what that means. That's for whoever needs to hear that word or, connect with that connotation. That's for you. I don't know what that is. but they're making me feel this way. Like at some point there was a brutal situation, a brutal conversation maybe, or action taken. Since this is wands, there could have been brutal action taken, and that was sort of a turning point for you or someone else in the situation. It feels like for you though, because I don't really feel. I know there are other people in your story, Capricorn, but you're the central focus here. And this can go vice versa, even though I just said that. It is still a general reading. But there was, maybe you witnessed something brutal. Okay, it doesn't mean that it had to happen to you, but you could have heard or seen or witnessed something really awful happen. And that observation of the awful act or the awful action or the awful conversation in some cases, you're just like, now, okay, no, 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 no. And there's like a reluctance, there's a resistance, there's a sort of fretful continued participation. Interesting. A fretful continued participation, meaning from that moment of whatever the brutal is, you then had to look at how you fit into the situation and then consider, okay, well, since that just happened, am I going to continue to do this? Am I going to continue to be a part of this? Am I going to continue to align myself with this person, not place, well, place like a corporation or something like that. So I don't know if I can continue to be a part of this, whatever, right? And Nine of Wands is, I gotta be honest, it's often a card where I'm like, I think it's good, but then there's also a side of it which isn't so good. And that's very relative. When I say good or not so good, that's relative because, we all have different definitions of that. But traditionally speaking, the Nine of Wands is giving it the old college try, being dedicated to your task or being dedicated to your position, standing your ground. It's the wounded warrior. So like giving it your all to the very last drop. And that's noble, right? To a certain degree, it is noble. To a certain degree, it's admirable. To a certain degree, that's something that would be deemed a virtue, is that you try your hardest and you're dedicated to accomplishing a goal, or you're dedicated to, in some cases, since again, it's this idea of a wounded warrior protecting something. That's noble. But it's also, in my estimation, easy to read that as foolish, as self-sacrificial, possibly needlessly so. You might not need to do it that way. You might not need to try so hard, or it might prove to be fruitless to continue to try. Because again, wounded warrior. So if we think about it in that way, wounded warrior, what the hell does that mean? You're a warrior, you're in a war, you're fighting for something, but you're wounded? Why aren't you in the infirmary? Why aren't you off of the battlefield? Why isn't your commander, whoever he or she is, pulling you off of the field and saying, good job, soldier, or good job, warrior, take a break at least, go drink some Gatorade and I'll see you in a couple minutes, or, there's no relief. So there's like this idea of sort of being taken advantage of, or again, self-sacrificing when you don't have to. So I don't really know what that is. I don't know how that plays. But what I'm seeing, is that what it is? You realize that you were doing that. Maybe. Okay, that would make sense. Going back, I'm like, well, how does this connect to your reading? Going back to this thing about imposter syndrome and being a part of a career path or an organization, maybe even just being in certain social circles with your friends and your family members, or your family members, I should say, and realizing, this ain't for me. This ain't the gig. This is not it, right? Because again, what comes above it is the hangman, that aha moment. And the facial expression on our good friend, the wounded warrior, it's almost like a little Charlie Brown kind of expression, is sort of like oh crumb, oh shucks, like realizing I'm in the wrong line of business. I'm hanging around the wrong people. I'm doing XYZ beyond my limit, again, which is noble, but to a certain point, because at some point it becomes self-sacrificial. It becomes self-sabotage, perhaps. You possibly put yourself in harm's way. Maybe some of you literally, since this is Wounded Warrior, maybe some of you served in the armed forces. Not to say that nobody should. I respect it. My own sister, she's a Marine. Okay, so I understand that, but I understand that some people, they get in and they realize, you know what, it's not for me. The things I've seen as a Wounded Warrior, the things I've seen, I'm ready to go. I'm ready to go ahead and end this contract. And I did say that, didn't I, earlier with the Ace of Pentacles. Some of you might be getting into new contracts. So maybe you leave, I don't know how it works. My sister's a Marine and she talks to me about it all the time, but I really don't know how a lot of it works. But there's active duty and then there's reserve, right? Or there's you can be active, but then you can leave and become like a consultant or something like that. I don't know. So maybe, again, and I said that earlier about like, you don't necessarily leave the entire field behind, but maybe you transition your specific profession, right? So instead of being a neuroscientist or neurosurgeon, maybe become a different type of surgeon or a podiatrist or something, whatever. I don't really know how transferable or easy it is to transfer those skills, but they're going to be related because at some point you were studying the human brain, which is a part of the body, a little bit about like, the way nerves and circulatory systems work. And now we're just going to talk about the feet. I assume they're pretty related in some senses, right? So I feel that could be happening here. You realize that what you were giving into or where you were dedicating your time, energy, and effort dealing with the wands, time, well, especially effort, right? So taking action, dedicating your effort was just not your bag. It's just not your thing. So you realize that, and maybe it's a little fretful for you, given the Charlie Brown grimace. You're just like, oh no. I feel like there was some reluctance to both continue and to stop. There's a little bit of like a loyalty I'm feeling coming through from some of you. Like maybe you did spend several years in the job or several years in a relationship or several years being a part of a community, a part of an organization, and now you realize, I gotta go. And that has been thematic for several signs. Detaching from or releasing or realizing where you've been is not where you're going to continue to be going forward. Where you have been, how you've lived, the people you've been around, all that's changing for several signs. So, don't feel ostracized or that you're such a bad person. Okay? So, since we know this is a circuit reading, your next position is the Knight of Swords. Air sign energy, Gemini, Libra, Aquarius. You could be dealing with an air sign, but you don't have to be. Now, this could be someone that you're dealing with, like I just said, they don't have to be an air sign. You might have someone come in very quickly with a lot of ideas or a lot of things to say. In some of your cases, this could be someone who comes in very quickly to criticize you, try to, cut you down, make you feel bad about yourself, or express their opinions about you and then kind of leave in the same breath. So I don't know, maybe some of you are like public figures and you've got like people leaving comments on your social media about the things that you're choosing to do in your personal life, and they're just very, very opinionated about it. If not that, I do think it's someone who just really wants to give you a piece of their mind because they really feel the things you've done or the things you're doing affect them. And they really don't. I gotta be honest. Even if this is like somebody that you're related to, even if this is someone that you live with or you're very close with, at the end of the day, this Knight of Swords lives their own life, has their own path, has their own journey. They make up their own mind about things. They don't answer to anybody. That's like the general vibe of the Knight of Swords. Doesn't answer to anybody. So the idea that you're impacting them is kind of laughable because you know that about them, or they make it very obvious in their argument to you or in their criticism of you that they actually don't care what you do, but I'm going to tell you what you're doing is stupid, or what you're doing is this and that and blah, 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 blah. But at the same time, I don't care. So it's kind of, Useless. Okay. But if this is your own energy, because I can feel this both ways. This is you. Mm, you might express to who needs to be told, like bosses, close friends, and family, what you're going to do, where you're going, how you're going to proceed, and all that kind of stuff. You might tell people, sort of what your path has been like so far. Maybe you're sharing your journey with people. Maybe you're like, maybe again, like going back to social media, like maybe you're like publicly documenting your journey, like you do vlogs or you have a YouTube channel or something like that or whatever, and people are aware. So I feel like really, even though he's not carrying one, I'm seeing like this knight carrying like a flag, like a huge flag. And I think back in the day, don't quote me because I'm not a historian at all, but I feel like that was a way to like symbolize from a great distance what was going on in a village or at the castle or something like that. Or it was a good way to identify yourself as like a messenger. Like if I carry a blue and white flag, that please don't shoot me or come up and try and like, run me through with a blade. I'm just carrying messages from one village or one area of the country to another. Let me and my horse go because I'm on a mission to just deliver messages, right? So I feel like that's what you're doing. Like you're announcing something or you're declaring something and you're doing it quickly, because that's the other thing about the Knight of Swords. He moves quickly. He speaks quickly. And I say he only because, knight is normally depicting a male, but you don't have to be a male to be experiencing this. Yeah, so it just feels like it happens. Like once you go through your awakening and once you kind of get new maybe that's it. Oh, okay, that could make sense, and that could be why someone would criticize you. So it comes right below your Ace of Pentacles. So remember, I feel like some of you were sort of not agonizing, but again, like you were evaluating what to do next, what to do next, what to do next. And the thing about a Capricorn, let's say you're leaving your job. You're not going to leave that job until you have a new job lined up, right? So in that specific case, you might leave your current job on very short notice. And that could be why people are criticizing you. And that could be also why you're kind of like, and I don't care. Well, your criticism doesn't really mean much because I've already got the job that I want, or I'm already going towards the new path or the new opportunity, the new path that I've been, aiming to go towards, So this feels just very transitionary. Like this is just like a moment, maybe a couple of days, maybe a few weeks of energy where things are falling into place and information is coming back and forth pretty quickly. You got some trolls on on your social media who are Capricorn, you're the worst ever, even though I don't really care about you. I don't really like you as, like maybe you're a celebrity or something. Like I don't even listen to your music, but I can tell you that you're the worst musician ever. Okay, so no, that's not how this is not how that works. How can you criticize my work if you don't even listen to it? Things like that. So this is very quick. You're not going to spend a lot of time with this Knight of Swords energy. It's just not your bag, and whoever this person is, they're not on your path anyway. Yeah, they're not on your path anyway. Come on, there we go. Not on your path anyway. Fool card. Final card in your main spread. Oh, I did mention them before, didn't I? This is secondary major for Aquarius, and I did say that some of you might be dealing with an Aquarius because their name was like trying to like slip out of my mouth earlier in the reading. I haven't done the reading yet. I'll be doing it soon after this one is over. So if you are connecting with an Aquarius, you might want to watch the reading, but you don't have to. But this Fool card, they're not on your path anyway. The Fool walks alone. And I feel Capricorn, that kind of goes back to what I was feeling in your meditation and what we talked about at the start of the reading. You're doing this by yourself. When I was visualizing and I was in this house and I was moving towards this house and walking through the door, I could feel it's like, I don't know if you've ever had that sensation of walking into an empty room or an empty space, but you can tell that someone was just there. Like somebody had just left the room that you entered, right? That's what this feels, or this is, I think, what happens. You're off, or this is what happens, or this is the sense. What am I saying? This is who just left the room. You. And this is the way in which you left the room or left the house or left the job or left the relationship, whatever it is. No holding back. Again, look at the smile on this character's face. Huge smile, okay? The smile that we had. I mean, all of these cards are smiling except for our good friend, Nine of Wands. But every other card has, like, pretty much they're happy. I mean, this is the Happy Tarot deck. But this smile, look at this. So excited to be free, to be on a new path, to be walking towards their own, dare I say, destiny. For some of you, you might feel that way. That could go back to your enlightenment. Again, I think some of you this might be a spiritual awakening or awareness that you've come into. Regardless, unbridled, very free, very happy. And this is as risky as a Capricorn can be. I'm going to say that. As risky as you can be. In some of your cases, maybe it's like extremely risky. What do I mean by risky? Like, it's really leaving it all behind, because that's what the Fool does. He grabs his little knapsack and his one little white rose, and he takes his dog and he just goes, right? Some of you might have done that. You know, not all Capricorns in all times of your life, phases of your life, in all instances are going to be as methodical or meticulous as you might want to be, as you might hope to be, due to I did say that, didn't I? Due to circumstances, you might have been put in sort of dire straits, or you might have been, again, I used this word earlier, abandoned or orphaned in some type of way. And when you're abandoned or you're orphaned, you don't have much to speak of anyway. In many cases, not all the time, but in many cases. So you might have been working for a place or working with people who sort of left you out to dry. Maybe that was the whole anxiety and consideration of the Two of Pentacles. Maybe, like, you know, your job closed up shop. Maybe it wasn't, I didn't want to not be working in finances, is my company shut down and I had no job to speak of. Right? And so the very little that the Fool takes with them is somehow tied back to, for a few of you, not for all of you, the trouble of the Two of Pentacles, or the consideration, the evaluation that was going on in the Two of Pentacles. Right? You didn't have much to speak of then, like at the start of it, and then once you get on this new path, you don't have that much either. Or maybe you just have the same thing that you had in the Two of Pentacles, but the optimism and the potential for growth is really what's, like, attractive to you or fulfilling you in some type of way. Like, you're not, like, this Fool energy doesn't feel very worried that he doesn't have much. Because I feel like there's this acknowledgement of, well, in time or along this new path, I'm bound to accumulate something. I'm going to encounter and sort of make a better road for myself, or make better circumstances for myself, okay? Outcome. What is this? Interesting. Okay. Late edition, but we'll talk about it straight off, right off the bat. Two of Cups is your outcome for November. So for some of you, this whole time, even though it wasn't very strong in the reading, but it does apply to some of you. This is about a relationship. You're leaving one relationship that was pretty crummy. Maybe you were abandoned. Maybe you were treated very poorly, or maybe things just dissolved or devolved in a certain way. And you're coming into contact with someone new. This new person, whoever they may be, I feel you guys get on. You might meet them in a very, like, festive place or a festive time. So holidays are coming up. If you're able to socialize, maybe there's like a little Christmas village that you might visit, or I don't think they're happening, but or maybe in like small towns, or like, you know, places where, you know, events haven't been canceled. Maybe you'll meet them at like a parade or something like that. But I really feel like there's like this party, happy, festive energy going on when two people meet. That's very interesting. And it doesn't have to be romantic that you're meeting these people. I mean, in some of your cases, it is about this because Two of Cups can be a soulmate energy. And I don't want to throw that around because that's not really the point of this reading. It's not super big in the energy, so it might play for a few of you, but good old Jay, I'm going to give you my caveat. Soulmates don't always have to be romantic partners, so you could be meeting a soulmate and it could just be a friend. In soulmate relationships, be warned, do not always have to be positive ones or overly positive. There might be difficulty in maintaining or establishing such a relationship. I mean, 2020 is here, so maybe you do meet someone and they're fantastic, but 2020 is still being what it's being, and maybe you meet somebody but you can't actually interact with them as much as you want. So be careful with that. Now, in other cases where this isn't about meeting a new person, sort of, in some of your cases, you really did leave one relationship for another. And I'm not sensing it's malicious. I'm not sensing it's like, oh, you were a cheater, Capricorn, or anything like that. In some of your cases, if that works, that works. It's not even the point of it. But I do get this very, like, as soon as one thing ends in a relationship, in a connection, romantic or not, a new thing begins with someone else. Very quickly, like almost immediately. But that kind of, again, plays to what I was talking about earlier about your job. If you leave one job, you don't leave until the new one is ready to go, waiting in the wings, right? It's not like I'm going to willfully terminate my own employment and then spend several weeks or months unemployed. I think most of you, if you have a choice in the matter, you're not going to do that. You're going to, quickly transition to the new job, right? Regardless of what it is, a person, a job, some other type of connection or some other type of opportunity or what have you, I feel, again, look how happy these little kids are, or these two characters are. Super happy. You will be more fulfilled. Whatever you're doing, whomever you're doing it with, Capricorn, more fulfillment is going to happen. And it's copacetic. Two of Cups is like, it's not a meeting of the minds. It's like a meeting of the hearts, a meeting of the sentiments or the sensibilities, I should say, right? So if you are finding, again, like going back with this idea of like neurosurgeon or even the military thing, maybe, not to say it's always this way, but in those jobs, you have to be tough or you have to be resilient in a certain type of way. You can't be, again, squeamish if you're going to operate on people. You might go to a different job and find that other people are just as squeamish as you, but they're still accomplished. Whatever you were sort of poked at, poke, where maybe, again, Knight of Swords, they were criticizing you. Oh, you'll never amount to anything because you weren't cut out for, the army, or you weren't cut out for, the Air Force or whatever. You're not tough enough. And then you go to another job and they're like, oh my God, you're so tough. It's like whatever you were criticized of not being that good at, you actually are good at it, but in a different context. Could even be in the relationship. You weren't loving in this relationship. You give it the next partner, they think you're the most loving person in the world. They've never felt so special. Things like that. And yeah, exactly. I think you get it. I don't need to tell you why that is that way. And look at that. Overall energy is the Tower, but look what's right behind it. The Sun. Perfect. Now, the Tower is the overall energy. I think it hasn't come out much in other readings, but it is thematic for the freaking month of November. Big changes, huge upheavals, things leaving our lives, or situations, people, connections, all that kind of stuff, leaving our lives that are no longer a part of our journey. Not even that it was never meant to be or that it shouldn't have been there in the first place. I feel everything that happens in life kind of happens for a reason, even if that reason is to show you it was like not kosher, or it was not going to be a long-lasting situation in your life. There's a purpose to that. But regardless, I'm not here to challenge you on that level per se. This Tower, I feel for some of you happened a long time ago. Like the inception point, again, could have been a while ago that you were in this, like I said before, with the Two of Pentacles, like this abandoned orphan type of phase. And if that literally is true, maybe that's what it is. Like maybe some of you, you're on the search for your birth parents, or you're on the search for your blood relatives. because, you know, you've grown up adopted, but you've always been curious who you're blood related to. So this could all be a journey to get to that point. And it's not to say that you should never have been adopted. It's not to say that, it's just to say that it's monumental. And the inception point, thank you, the inception point of the tower could have happened years ago when you were a kid, right? It doesn't have to be yesterday. Your whole life comes crumbling down, and that's the tower. And that's the other thing about this. No, and then we're going to stop. The tower in tarot does not have to be destructive. It doesn't have to happen in one particular moment at one particular in one particular day or something like that. It could be several events over a course of your life, or a phase of your life, I should say. And it doesn't have to be, quote unquote, devastating. It could just be, how could I say it? I guess it would be like that. Okay. So think about like demolishing buildings. That can go really good or really bad. You know, the modern ways in which people demolish buildings, you can do it really well or you can do it really awfully, right? If you set the charges, if you get people back and it's safe, and you run all, you know, you check all the connections and the wires and the explosives and everything like that, you implode the building. Yeah, it's kind of shocking, but nobody gets hurt. There's no debris flying through the sky. You know, the ash and all of that doesn't, like, you know, linger in the air, and hopefully you don't release like toxins into the air. Oh, we blew up this building, but we forgot to cut off the gas line, so we blew a huge hole in the middle of the city. You know what I mean? There are ways to destroy things or have things come down, and it's done well. And I think that's what this is signaling to. That for some of you, not all, it's removing or the taking down of something, and it's done, quote unquote, well. It's not terrible, okay? Capricorn, that is your reading for November. If you like this reading, hit the like button for me. I would appreciate that. If you want to leave a comment, let me know how this reading resonated in your life. I would love to read that. I love comments. And please feel free to subscribe to the channel if you have not done so already. That would also be appreciated. Capricorn, I'll be back soon to do the mid-November readings. If you want to get at me for a personal reading, again, you can find that information down in the description box below, okay? Thank you guys so much for watching. I really do appreciate it. Take care.